Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Natalie Standridge on the line, and she's founder and franchisor over at Casa de Corazón. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I'm excited to get into the story of Casa de Corazón, and also, the franchising opportunity that you have and the enormous growth that you've experienced. I mean, it's quite an entrepreneurial story, and one that I'm happy to bring to my audience. And maybe just to get us kicked off, let's go back a little bit further into your story and really how you got started as an entrepreneur. How did this journey begin for you?
Sure. I'm excited to tell this story. It's actually an accidental entrepreneur story. I did not plan on starting my own business. I didn't study business in college. If anyone had told me I was going to be a business owner when I was in my early 20s, I would have thought that they were crazy. So what I studied in college was family social science with an emphasis on cultural youth studies and a minor in Spanish. And when I graduated school, I started teaching at a Spanish language preschool and getting really interested in the early childhood education field and just loving those kids and learning about licensing and accreditation at the center that I was working as a preschool teacher and when I had my own first child. And so I started looking for daycare for her because I was a full-time working mom, and realized that there wasn't anyone in my current local market at that time that was providing a type of program that aligned with my values as a parent. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs find their niche or their goals in their career by realizing a gap in the market of something that they need as human beings, and just sort of stumbling upon this idea of, well, if this doesn't exist, maybe I could create it. And so when I was touring daycares for my daughter, I was looking for a bilingual model. I wanted to raise my daughter bilingual, Spanish and English. That was a really high priority for me as a mom, with my own bilingualism. And I also wanted to raise her in a very healthy and holistic way. And I found that the daycare centers that I was touring, first of all, were not offering Spanish language immersion from the infant level. The youngest age that I could find in the Twin Cities, which is where I'm based, of Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, was at the preschool level. So age 3 and up was when we could start exposing kids to Spanish in the schools that were existing at the time. Well, kids are hardwired to learn language in the first 5 years of life from infancy. They start that actually pre-being born. In the womb, they start learning language. It's really interesting, the research of kids that are internationally adopted being able to access the language of the home country where they were in utero later in life, because those connections in the brain happen before they're even verbal, at pre-verbal stages. And so being able to start at the infant level with the language immersion was really important to me. Nobody was doing that. I went and toured a bunch of daycares, found that the food that they were serving the kids was really kind of questionable and kind of making me go, oh, this is why we have a childhood obesity and type 2 diabetes problem in the United States, is because from age 1, we are serving our children in formal childcare settings, very processed and packaged and just pesticide filled, dangerous food, in my opinion. And so I was thinking, this isn't what I want for my daughter. This doesn't align with my values as a mom, but I still want to be a working mom. I really support that idea that women can be contributing members of society and have their careers and also raise their children guilt-free and not have to have this trauma of, I'm leaving my child in a subpar situation that I don't think is as great as what I'm doing at home, and in order to go to work. And so when I had that feeling as a mom of, wow, I'm going to this preschool and I'm taking care of other people's children, and I don't have a place that makes sense to bring my daughter because they're only serving 3-year-olds and up, I thought, well, maybe I could do this. I know about licensing. I studied a career that was pretty much aligned with, what early childhood education is, and working with families, of course, in the Spanish language and the youth piece. Maybe I should start doing this myself. And so that was my inspiration to do it. And as I grew my first location, I found that there were so many other parents in the local community that were looking for something of this quality and caliber and this values-based approach to making food from scratch on site, from local organic ingredients to the Spanish immersion curriculum and accreditation and all of these things that created the high quality care for the children in my local community. And just it grew from there. I got really inspired. And, the first time that I had a mom, drop off her 12-week-old at one of my centers and go to work, and in tears, of course, because it's heartbreaking to leave your child that young. But she looked me in the eye and she said, Natalie, I feel like bringing my child here, she's actually going to be better off than if I were to quit my job and stay home with her. That's when I felt self-actualized in my career and what I had decided to do, even though I didn't think of myself as being an entrepreneur at that time, or a business owner, or an employer, or a boss, or any of those things. It was just, I wanted to create this care environment that parents didn't have to feel guilty leaving their kids in order to go and do what they wanted to do with their careers and their days.
Wow, what an amazing story. And I'll tell you, I love when someone starts a business because they were trying to solve a problem or a need for themselves. I feel like those are some of the best success stories. And those they're just so interesting to me, because as we all, just as people, forget the word entrepreneur, go about in our daily lives, solving problems and doing other things. I think it's just unique when somebody actually, makes that part of their life journey and their purpose, and that they actually take that next step of not just, searching, but of actually starting something. And like you did with Casa de Corazón. So what was one of the, not being an entrepreneur before, obviously we all learn from the ups and the downs, the sideways, and on that journey. What was maybe some of the surprises that you've learned along the way so far on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest one in the very beginning was how much goes into managing human beings as an employer. I thought I was getting into the childcare business and I was going to be caring for children. And I had a long-standing history of experience in that. My parents did foster care for pre-adoptive newborns as I was growing up. I had had more CPR and first aid training by age 12 than most people have in their entire lives, just because we had these babies in our house all the time. And I felt very well prepared for caring for people's children. But what I didn't understand, and what came as a surprise to me, was that managing a staff of 30 people, which is what these centers take, was going to bring a whole new set of challenges. I guess I just thought that everybody would show up and be as driven and dedicated and committed and energetic about this whole idea as I was. And I didn't realize that I was going to be balancing the challenges in their work-life balance, right? And the challenges that they were bringing in the door, and the challenges of different personalities and different education backgrounds, working in a 700 square foot classroom with 14 toddlers it just brought a lot of challenges that I think were surprising to me, and that I learned a ton about management and working with people, because it's such a relationship-based industry, and those relationships between the team members with each other, the team members and the children, and then even with the families. But it was also this amazing blessing that I didn't see coming, where the relationships forged between the teachers and the families was an unexpected happy surprise too. I didn't really realize that I was creating this bridge between two cultures and communities, because we're a Spanish immersion school and the majority of children that attend are native English speaking, that I would be creating a platform for people to build relationships with others that they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise met in the community at large. And so it was a surprise and a challenge. And then in the end, it was also a surprising, wonderful outcome that I hadn't realized was going to come.
Wow, that's wonderful, Natalie. So, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, and I know we'll talk about your franchising opportunity. So I know you're obviously working with entrepreneurs yourself now and really spreading that opportunity. But what is one of the things that you tell to some of those newer entrepreneurs that are maybe just getting started, obviously with you having the benefit of hindsight now on your side?
Yeah, it's really just being able to hand them the tools that nobody was there to provide to me when I was starting. So, templates for parent handbooks, templates for employee handbooks, templates for managing classrooms, curriculum, recipes for this healthy food for the kids. Where do you source all of the ingredients for that? What's a great list of bilingual books? Oh my gosh, it was so hard to get bilingual books when I started doing this 18 years ago. Spanish language books at the preschool level, they were impossible. I remember taking trips with my family to Mexico, physically buying the books in Mexico and bringing them back with me because I couldn't get enough. Now there's so it's so much more accessibility to get those bilingual resources. And so when we can give our franchisees a list of all of these books that were so hard to get years ago and say, these are the diverse, culturally appropriate books to have in each classroom at each age level, that's just one very specific example of something that I struggled with that now as a franchisor, I can hand over to my franchisees and they don't have to go through that same struggle.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And I'm just picturing you like, where do we get these books? All right, we're going to Mexico. We need some Spanish books. That's the closest we're in.
Yeah.
Things entrepreneurs do to solve problems. I love this.
Yeah.
So let's go a little bit further into, we've talked about a little bit, but I do want to go deeper into Casa de Corazón and exactly what you're doing and maybe some of those things that that make what you're doing so special. One of the things that stand out to me is obviously the diet, as you mentioned, but what are some other things?
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's really unique to Casa de Corazón, not only in the Spanish immersion early childhood education industry, but in the early childhood ed industry at large, is that we have our own proprietary technology. We have an application that has a portal side for our center directors and managers and an app user side for the cell phones of the people that are enrolled in our center and the people that are on our waiting list. So our waiting lists have typically been 3 times our enrollment capacity. So people end up waiting for a very long time to get a space in one of our centers. And it's been sort of a pain point to have management of that waiting list where people they know they're waiting. They have no idea how long they're going to wait. They want to know where they're at on that waiting list. And they're calling and calling and calling. And our center directors are managing all these calls. Well, with the Casa app, they can view real time where they are on that waiting list. They can see, oh, I'm number 43 out of 171 families. And so I can watch that number get smaller and sort of figure out how close I am to getting my child enrolled. And then once families are enrolled, this app has the capacity to give them access to a lot of our bilingual resources and materials. So the the menu, what we're serving the children each day for those foods, so they can keep track of if their child has a dairy allergy, what days we're serving dairy, and they might want to bring an alternative. Or the bilingual music that we're listening to in our classrooms. Music is one of the best ways for young children to learn language. And so we play a ton of music. We play culturally relevant music to the country of the month that we're studying each month. And we also play a lot of just Spanish language teaching music, so teaching concepts through music. And it's been so cool for these families to be able to stream that music at home in their living room, watch their kid do the dance, and, or listen to it in the car when it's music that the child is already familiar with. And it also helps those parents who want to learn a little bit more Spanish too, that they can engage with the children's curriculum in that really hands-on way. On the portal side, it helps our center directors and franchisees manage those waiting lists, manage enrollments, see real time what's going on with all of that side of the enrollment process. And so I think that that's something that not every childcare center in the franchise industry is offering to their franchisees or to their enrolled families. So I think it's a really special piece.
Oh, that is special. I'm picturing they're listening to it in the car, the kids dance, and everybody knows what's going on. It just seems like you're building an amazing, I guess the word I would use is community, culture, both internally and obviously with the families. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of culture and what it means, not only at the centers, but just in this really bridge that you're serving between families, the children, your staff, all of that? Tell us how that works and how important it is to you.
100%. That is one of the most central pieces to what I am doing here, especially in modern times when there's so much cultural and racial discord in the United States. I think it's really important to be intentional as organizations about combating racism and all of those other really difficult things to talk about. And I think that if we start at the early childhood level, these children just grow up knowing that the world is a very diverse place, and that they have a place in that, and that they have a role in being part of the solution. And so the tagline of our title, we're Casa de Corazón, which means house of heart. But our tagline is intercultural early learning. And the word intercultural is very unique. I think we throw around the word multicultural a lot, which really just means a bunch of cultures alongside each other. The word intercultural is intentional in the sense that it means cultures are not only near each other, but they're actually learning from each other in an authentic way, and thereby enriching their understanding of their own culture and their experience of other people's cultures. And so I think it's just a really important way to look at community when being born and raised in the United States, which is such an ethnically diverse place, with so much opportunity to gain meaningful relationships with people of lots of diverse backgrounds. And that's something that we're doing on purpose. And so I mentioned a lot of our teachers are native Spanish speaking, but also we sponsor a visa program where our teachers can actually have a work visa sponsored through our organization to come and teach in the US from their countries of origin on a temporary basis, build their resumes for going back home, but also get this really authentic cultural experience for themselves, and a cultural experience that they are sharing with the children and the families and the community at large by coming here and teaching their culture, the things about their native country that the kids might not otherwise have the opportunity to learn.
Wow. I mean, the layers, it just keeps getting better and better, and the opportunities that you're providing. I mean, that really is next level. And speaking of opportunity, I want to switch it up a bit, and I want to go as a franchisor. I want to I want to go into this opportunity and what you're providing and kind of what it looks like, because I know you're in expansion mode. I mean, just by what you said in terms of the waiting list, all these families waiting, right? right? So
Right.
let's talk a little bit more about what you're looking for in terms of a franchisee. Like what's the person or persons that you find have been kind of a good fit to fit in with your model?
Yeah, it's been really cool to see the types of people that are seeking us out nationwide and finding us organically in other states and other markets. And the people that we're looking for are people that are just really inspired by this differentiation in the early childhood education market
Mhm.
and sort of disrupting, which is I feel like what I did when I first began this program and came up with the concept. There are so many markets across the US where a program like this still does not exist. And
Yeah.
I feel that if there's an owner operator on site that wants to build something like this, that there's such an opportunity for what happened with me, which was they're going to see that there are so many other families in their community that are aligned with looking for this sort of high quality and culturally intelligent space for their kids to grow up in. So what we're looking for is people that are aligned with that mission, of course, and are inspired by that idea, but also people that are not afraid to be hands-on and do the hard work. This is not a small investment, hands-off kind of franchise. This is a large investment. We're brick and mortar, 8 to 10,000 square feet, builds. So it's a big investment up front, but it's also a commitment of, time and energy building relationships with the staff and with the families that are enrolled. So we're looking for people that really want to be hands-on about that. This is sort of why I franchised, is because I know that the quality comes from being present and having people that want to be present and build those relationships and really care about their families. And so it's people that are wanting to do something meaningful. A lot of the people that we attract that I think are a really good fit are people who maybe have reached their level of fulfillment that they want in corporate jobs. And now they're sort of having this second stage of their career where they're going, wow, I don't know if this is enough for me. I want to do something more meaningful. I want to do something fulfilling, or they may have young children of their own. A lot of our people do have children of the preschool age, and they're kind of like me, kind of like I was, like, oh, I want to give something to my kid that's better than what I could take them to while I go do this corporate job that I don't really care about or feel fulfilled by. And so that's been a really unique niche type of candidate, is someone who is inspired by doing that for their own children or for their community, and wanting to make a move from a job that may not feel as mission focused or fulfilling in a big way for them.
Are there any particular markets that you're targeting, just in general through the United States, cities or regions?
Absolutely. So we've done a full demographic and psychographic analysis nationwide based on the families that are currently enrolled at our most successful centers in the Twin Cities and Wisconsin, and also on the staff that we employ. So we do a double overlay of two different demographics when we're mapping. And the areas that have stood out the most as amazing markets for this are several cities in Texas. It's a very, very bilingual state. A few cities in Florida, the Denver, Colorado area, Seattle, Washington. Just off the top of my head, those are some of the best areas that we've seen would have the aligned demographics and psychographics for families and staff for our program.
So it sounds to me, by the way, so one of the things you mentioned is the owner operator. That's definitely the type of person or franchisee that's going to be a good fit. Obviously, full build, large facilities, amazing things there. Talk a little bit more about just how you see the overall opportunity in general. So there's some people watching this right now that are, maybe they're in the market, they're looking at buying a business, they're looking at what's next, whether they are, as you mentioned, the corporate side, just going to see what that next thing is, or they're figuring out like whether they should start something on their own or whether they should go the franchisee model. I mean, because there's different ways of looking at it. So on your end, I mean, how do you see the situation? Because you started from scratch.
I did, and I have no regrets about that. I'm a pioneer. I definitely loved creating it from scratch, but man, it was a lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we develop. And I think this opportunity is for people that want to be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. I think it's
Mhm.
very lonely building something that doesn't exist and having no template for it and
Yeah.
no mentor that's teaching you. And so I'm a mentor at heart. I love fostering entrepreneurship in other people
Mhm.
and helping them through the things that nobody was there to help me do. And so I think this is a great opportunity for someone who wants to do something meaningful and believes in what's been created here already, but really just be handed the tools for
Mhm.
an extremely successful model that meets these goals and also not have to create it from scratch. And so I think there are a lot of people out there that know they want to own a business.
Mhm.
They want to be their own boss. They want to manage their own time. I mean, we recommend that our franchisees hire other managers on site so they don't have to be there the whole time, and they don't even have to be fully bilingual if they hire a center director that is bilingual and can fully communicate with, the center staff and also the families. And so these are people that, want to do this, but with help, with the support
Yeah.
necessary to just know that it's going to be successful. I mean, everything from those templates for handbooks and policies to the actual curriculum materials. I mean, we're going to send those through the Casa app to every single classroom every single week. You don't have to develop the curriculum from scratch all the time, which is what I was doing when I first started out. We're going to send you those recipes for those scratch made foods. We even will send you recipes for the infant food purees. We make baby food from scratch on site, and you're eliminating all this garbage, right, from buying a little jar of baby foods, because we're making it on site, and we're giving you the tools to make that healthy organic food with no additives and feed these kids the right way. But you don't have to figure out what those recipes are from scratch. And so that's the kind of mentality, I guess, of the opportunity is you can get all of those resources from us,
Mhm.
and we're very, very thorough in our franchisee support. We are on calls and Zoom meetings and in person with them on an extremely regular basis. And so
Yeah.
just having access to the 45 collective years of experience on my headquarters team of people that just everything from marketing to accounting to operations, just knowing that you have access to me and my team and our 45 years of experience in this industry, I think it's just a load off. I mean, it's just that piece that you don't have to worry about if you choose a franchise model.
Oh man, I'll tell you my bias. I had to ask the question first because I don't, but I'll tell you my bias. I'm like, if I could have bought a media franchise business and just plugged in, and everybody could have told me all the things to do in advance. Oh my gosh, would I have ever done that? I just didn't even know. So
Right.
I'm like, so when I hear, and then I've interviewed quite a few people that are franchisors, and when I hear about the like what you just described, I'm like, how many mistakes could that have saved? How many hours? How many headaches? Like, oh, it would have been nice media business in a box. Why couldn't I have had that one?
It would be so different, just so different than trying to figure everything out. I feel like there's so many things that I learned the hard way, and it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be like that if you choose franchising.
Love it. So Natalie, first off, I just want to say it's been awesome having you on the show. I really love bringing success stories like this to my audience, and everything that you're doing at Casa de Corazón for not only the families, your employees, the franchisees. I mean, your expansion. I mean, it's just the inspiration. It's just a great testament to, to going after something and really trying to build something of value and bringing that to the world. And I see that in your story. So I'm happy to share that with my audience. That being said, Natalie, so if somebody's watching this or listening to this in their car and they want to learn more about Casa de Corazon, whether they're looking to get on that waiting list, or maybe they're thinking about, purchasing a business or becoming a franchisee and want to explore that opportunity further, what's the best way for people to connect?
Yeah, so we have a website, casaearlylearning.com. So CASA earlylearning.com. And at the bottom of our website are links to all of our social media platforms. They're very, very fun. We have a YouTube channel with tons of videos that talk about our culture, our company culture. There's a lot of staff and kids interacting on there, but also some information about the franchise opportunity. We are pretty active on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn as well, both with my personal name, Natalie Standridge, and with the Casa de Corazón, and also the Casa Early Learning handles. But all of those links are at the bottom of the website. And so I would just encourage people to follow us on social media. It's so fun. I mean, cute kids, fun days, events, family interactions. We do our family spotlights and all, learn about all the families and what they're doing. And it's just a really fun, engaging sort of social media life online. And then our website also has the franchising information on one of the drop downs in the navigation. So that's pretty easy to find as well.
Fantastic. Well, Natalie, thank you again for coming on the show. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We have more great guests and inspirational stories, just like Natalie's coming up for you. Don't want you to miss any of those. And Natalie, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Adam.